morning. My name is Frances Castanedice, and I am honored to welcome you to our Feel Good Friday episode today. We have some very, very special guests with us today. We've got artist Jesse Sifuentes, and we also have from the East End District, Martin Chavez, Director of Operations and Constituent Services, and also Dan Joyce, who is Director of Public Affairs. Jesse will talk about his artwork in the East End, and Dan and Martin will talk about the East End District's current study for cultural arts, their strategic plan, and how they can keep our community beautiful, safe, and colorful. But for those of you who didn't know, the East End is a cultural district. Back in 2014, the Texas Commission on the Arts designated the Houston East End as a Texas cultural district. And this designation means more opportunities for tourists and local residents to know the art value presented in the East End community. So it's our honor to welcome these three gentlemen to speak with us today. So thank you all for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
Wonderful. And I think we're going to start off with Dan. So Dan, I wanted that we share some pictures here and wanted you to talk to us about the East End District, you know, what it does. And a lot of folks confuse sometimes the chamber with the district. We're very honored for them to give us some of the accolades that all the work that you do, but together we're a strong force, and it's an honor to partner with you on so many different things. But tell us about the district and the cultural district.
Sure. So the East End District was formed back in 1999. You'll get to talk to Martin in a little bit, who was actually employee number 2 of the district. He's coming up on his 20th anniversary in September, which was quite an accomplishment. So the East End District does a whole host of things, you know, with a focus and eye on economic development and the stimulation of the economy in the East End. We focus on security for our business community and residents, as well as additionally beautification projects, right-of-way maintenance, just overall a sense of you know, stimulating the economy through beautification, through the ability to, you know, through our arts and a whole host of other projects that we'll get to see and talk about here shortly. And more recently, back in 2014, we had the honor to apply and be designated by the Texas Commission on the Arts as a state designated cultural district. We are one of, at last count, I think it's about 40 in the state of Texas. And these are special districts that, there's zones that really power the harness of cultural activities and cultural resources that help stimulate economic development and community revitalization in these areas. Which for those that live and work or have visited the East End in the last few years, you can see is very active. We host, you know, one of the largest collection of outdoor murals and public art in the entire city, which is something that is really part of our DNA here in the East End. Some of these go back as far as the early 70s and newer, and they're popping up all over the place. We're actually currently working on a new interactive map, both with UpArt Studio for a Houston mural map, as well as one that's going to integrate into our eastendhouston.com website that will allow folks to take either a virtual tour or you know, a self-guided tour of all the public art throughout the East End. You know, grab a bike is a great way to do it, or in your car, depending on time of year. You know, hop on over to some of our great restaurants, maybe stop off for a margarita break, something like that. But yeah, it's amazing to see the transformation, particularly through the lens of public art in the East End, and how that's really stimulated development, residential growth, business development. Over the, you know, I've been working here for the last six or 7 years at this point. It's hard to believe. And the transformation that I've seen during this time improve streets and walkability and bikeability and like we're talking about public art, and new restaurants coming online, and it's really the place to be.
I agree. And this picture right here, the top left, can you tell us, I know where it is, but can you tell us where that mural is located?
Yeah, so we refer to that one as the gateway to the East End. It was painted back in, and Martin may have to fact check me on this, but I think back in 2013 to 2014, as the East End light rail, the Green Line, was coming online. It's painted by muralist Daniel Angelou, and this is on Harrisburg, just inside Emancipation, as Texas turns into Harrisburg, and you're coming in to the East End. So kind of the gateway to the East End, coming from downtown as a major corridor. So everybody that rides the Green Line light rail gets that as their first view into the East End. And it's really a breathtaking piece. It's probably 400 or 500 feet long, and is really quite a statement, and pop of color as you come to the East End.
Wow, and I'm looking forward to it because I know that eastendhouston.com is a place that the chamber, the East End District and the Edo District collectively put together so that people will know where to eat, play, stay, and enjoy themselves in the East End. So I highly encourage everybody to go to eastendhouston.com and visit, and then to look for that interaction map out there.
Yeah.
But I do know that the East End District also and the Chamber collaborate on different projects. And I wanted to showcase this. On the left is a piece called Autoflora by Amber Eagle. And several years ago, the Houston Arts Alliance gave us a grant, and we produced this piece. But the Chamber didn't have a location to permanently place this. And at the time, the management district was putting together a pocket park on the corner of Lockwood and Harrisburg. And we thought this is the perfect place for it to be placed in. So for anyone that drives by near CVS on Lockwood and Harrisburg, make sure that you take a look at that and know that these pedals are made out of Volkswagen hoods. It's very impressive.
It is indeed. And you know, if you drive by, the garden actually looks quite different these days. Martin and his team have done a tremendous job of ensuring that it's got native pollinator plants that are in full bloom right now. And it's right there on the high capacity line bus route, as well as the East End light rail. So there's a lot of foot traffic. You know, and there's a lot of development that's going on right there with the new Baker Ripley facility, as well as the Center for Pursuit, which is broken ground a few months ago on their new facility there. So it's a great little retreat, kind of right there hidden in the middle of the East End. And what's real neat about that piece is at night there's some LED lights in there that actually illuminate the piece inside. Kind of inside the pedals. So it's really a wonderful piece, and thank you for your partnership on that.
You're welcome. And speaking of Baker Ripley, you know, collectively we got the East End during the Complete Communities program, received another art grant, and we put together these art cubes that are at Baker Ripley. They were there temporarily, and it was an outdoor gallery. And then we moved that one that says the ship channel over to the Yolanda Black Navarro Park, and it's just another way that collectively together we are bringing art to our community. So it's good.
Yeah, these are phenomenal, and some of these, as Francis can attest, were done by different artists, including the ship channel, which was done by some school-age children with the support of was that one with Gonzo, and then Sylvia Blanco and some other, and Gonzo had a piece of his own, and some really great local artists that contributed to these pieces.
Mm-hmm. So pass by Baker Ripley and check those out too. And then in addition to being a cultural district, there's food, and East End is the place to come for food. So we thought we'd share some pictures and let you talk about how culinary is part of the district.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to talk about culture without food. I think food is as much a part of anybody's culture as anything, right? And as the arts, as music, and food is something that's very important to us. You know, we're home of the original ninfas on navigation that you see there in the lower left. Their families carrying on the tradition at Lorenzo's El Tiempo Cantina. Um, you know, there's so much history with Ninfas and her family. We're actually the cultural district is working on. We're in the middle of producing a documentary right now on Mama Ninfa and her life, and we're looking at it through the lens of what the Lorenzo family, you know, what the East End meant to them and why they hung their hat and planted their roots in the East End, and the tradition that has provided you know, a catalyst for other restaurateurs and other things in the East End, and we hope to preview that in just a few months. So be on the lookout.
Thanks for
There's
that.
yeah, absolutely. There's also you know, barbecue. There's a couple different barbecue offshoots. Lennox has been around for ages, since 1946. You know, when the light rail came online back in 2014, they shifted their model, and they do primarily catering and takeout at this point. It's one of our favorite lunch spots. You know, when the district staff gets together for a gathering or party, they always provide the smoked meats, or whether it be a turkey or barbecue, and it's fantastic. And then there in the middle, a couple different you know, additional murals. The one on the top there is the newest, and that is there on the Navigation Esplanade. And believe it or not, that Loteria mural actually serves as a restaurant, I'm sorry, a restroom kiosk. So that's a men's and women's ADA restroom that helps serve, whether it's for our Sunday farmers market, or various other festivals and events that happen there on the Navigation Esplanade, including the East End Street Fest, which is an annual event. Um, and we worked with Up Art Studio and one of their artists to commission and have that made, and it's eye catching, and I think they did a really wonderful job with it.
I love it. And in addition to just Tex-Mex and barbecue, we have Thai food. We've got a little bit of everything. So I love that about us.
It's very much a snapshot of Houston. You know, as everyone knows, we are I think, last I checked, the most diverse city in the entire country. And I think, you know, every neighborhood you go to in the city has things that maybe are slightly more prevalent. You know, Mexican and Tex-Mex, particularly in the East End, there's some great tacos. Um, but in addition, we've got a hodgepodge of a little bit of everything, and that's the best part.
Well, great. Well, I couldn't help, but I had to wear my East End Street Fest staff shirt, and we
Yes,
were, honored to work on that. And it was great to work with you on that for a couple of years too.
absolutely.
But are there anything new? I know you mentioned there's a new mural coming, but anything happening with the district that we should be, the community can help you with?
Yeah, so we've got, you know, in the last 2 months, we've had 4 new murals come online. Two of them are great mini mural partnerships with with Up Art Studio, who curates the mini murals project all over the city. We worked with Armando Castellan to do. It was in an earlier slide, but you may have seen the one it's over by Gus Wortham Golf Course, and we're going to do some more of these actually, where we've taken these low sidewalk retaining walls that typically get scuffed up or maybe even tagged by uh, by folks that, you know, doing some illegal graffiti, and we've really dressed them up and turned them into a beautiful scene. That one in particular is a new golf scene as you're welcomed in the area of Gus Wortham. Another cool project that we are about to unveil is a new series called East End Unplugged. And East End Unplugged is going to be featuring it's a live streaming series, and it's going to be featuring artists from all over the East End, performing artists. We may even have integrate some dance performances in there as well. But that'll be a new streaming series that we hope to preview and unveil in just a few weeks. We've had a couple setbacks, obviously, related to everything that's going on right now. But you know, outside of that, we're looking, you know, to figure out what the future of the East End Street Fest this year looks like, and you know, attracting more muralists as well, and beautiful public art. So, you know, if you're a business owner or know of a location that has some wall space or would like to see something transformed, make sure to get with us, either dan@eastenddistrict.com or our other email address, which is hello@eastenddistrict.com. Shoot us a note and see if we can connect with you and get an artist potentially to create a you know, transform your space. It'll bring foot traffic, you know, make it Instagram worthy and folks to visit your place of business. And that's what we're doing with this public art. So.
Is your survey still going on, your cultural district survey?
We have wrapped up the cultural district survey, but we are in the midst. We are working with Lee Weingarten and her team at Weingarten Art Group right now. We actually started back in October because the first public engagement took place at the East End Street Fest last year. But we are working on a cultural arts strategic plan for the East End. So that we can use that as a tool and a mechanism to hear not only from the community of what they'd like, and for what would bring tourists to the East End, but how we can use that as a mechanism for future grant opportunities and funding resources to really make a roadmap for what public art in the East End looks like and how to preserve the existing public art that we have right now. We hope to have that plan published for the public consumption at the end of September. We are currently doing some focus groups and some stakeholder interviews, and have had some public surveys in the field, and are really in the data gathering process at the moment, and then getting the plan put together, and that's obviously a process. So we hope to have that, like I mentioned, at the end of September, and then use that as a tool as we move forward and continue to develop the you know, incredible you know, map of public art here in the East End.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dan. We're going to bring artist Jesse Sifuentes on to talk about one of the artists that we have, his pieces in the East End, and then we're going to all come back for a group session. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks so much for having me, Francis.
Great. Hello, Jesse. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you. Hi, Francis. Good morning, everybody.
You're one of my favorite artists, and I love that we've become friends, and I think the world of you. And so I'm glad that you were able to join us. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself, your history, and what you're doing right now, so they can just get to know you better.
Well, thank you, Francis. I'm glad to be here. Presently, you know, it's summertime, and we're in between semesters, but I did have one of my parts of my volunteer work generally is at Smither Park, but the paper airplanes on navigation suffered some damage with water coming from the back of it and high winds, and it broke a piece off. So I felt that should be remedied as soon as possible. So that's what I've been doing lately right now.
That's good. And are you still teaching at TSU?
Yes. And I'm glad to say I'm through with it now. But that's about it. I'm staying. What I've been doing is riding my bike. I ride my bike down the East End, into town, and back.
That's great. And these two are pieces that you have here in the East End. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the one on the left? I know that's at the Simon's store, clothing store on Harrisburg.
Yeah, it's on Simon's Menswear, and it's on the corner of Chavez and Cesar Chavez and Harrisburg. that came about as a piece that was part of that I collaborated with the East End, and I made the Orange Show also. But that one, we wanted to reflect that in the East End, there's some natural, good, healthy foods. And being a heart patient, I was all for that because I'm healthy eating. And so I made a composition of there's besides the watermelons, there's some eggplants in the center. And at the top, there's a basket full of sweet potatoes. And then to the right of that is some oranges. And then at the below right, there are apples. But one of the things that I did that was a little different was that I put geometric or quilt patterns into the shapes. For example, on the sweet potatoes, I put plaids, checkerboards, and since I'm a big fan of quilts and quilt patterns, that's what I incorporated into my images. And the one on the right, that's at the Starbucks there on Woodridge. And I came up, actually, that's only one. There's 3 panels on the side of that building. There was supposed to have been 3 images, and that's the center part. And because of time, and we only had time to do one. And inside the Starbucks, there's another painted mural that has all 3 images. Actually, there's 4, but the 3 main images that were supposed to go outside are in the painted mural inside the lobby. It's still in there. I know they've changed it up a bit, but last time I was there, that mural is still inside. And that one is paint. And this one outside is all ceramic. And usually with ceramic, it usually stays, but the one on navigation, it just had a mishap.
That's okay. I think we have some more of your images right here. I know that the paper plane, and we're going to talk to Martin about that in a little while. But I love the one on the left and how you reflected the Orange Show in there, and the light rail and produce again. Yeah.
The Starbucks, that Starbucks was a community store. And at the time this was done, the Starbucks only had 3 community stores in the nation. And they picked Houston to have a community store where some of the profits, or 10% of it, went to nonprofits in the city. And I think Alma and maybe others were the recipients of that. So my task was to include, they gave me a list of things that represent Houston, and the Orange Show's one, Alma's one, the Chip Channel's one, the coffee industry's one, the light rail is one. I had a list of things to include, so I had to work out a composition that would work in one painting. Now the one at the bottom, the one at the right below that with the magnolia trees, that's at the City Hall permitting building on Houston Avenue. And the architect wanted this mural to turn a corner. If you notice, it makes a 90-degree turn. And usually you don't have murals that make a turn like that, but the architect there was, he's a troublemaker. So he's going to get talked about in a lot of magazines. But I think that's really neat the way you had it made it turn the corner. Yeah.
These are great. And then we've got some more images. These are some of your original drawings and paintings. And I've also seen you had ceramic pieces. Where can people find your items to look and purchase?
Well, unfortunately, most of these I still have them. But yeah, you can find them at my house. But that's now some of those pieces, some of those images have been included in my outdoor murals. The the telescope, that's on the rec supply building. And the lady hanging up the clothes, that was on Avenue K and 78th and Avenue K, but that it got painted over because it deteriorated so bad, it peeled.
Well, goodness gracious. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. We wanted to bring Martin on and talk about this piece because it's all about collaboration and people say that the East End is a small town within a big city, and I truly believe that because we all help one another. COVID is just another example of how we're all coming together. But I got a voice message that you needed assistance helping with this airplane piece. And then when we talked, you shared that the East End District and Martin Chavez helped you with funding to help fix that. So this is the project you're currently working on. Can you just let us know how that came to be?
Yes, Francis. Thank you for inviting us to the show. I think it's a great show, letting the community know all that's going on in the area and how we're all working together to benefit, and make the East End a better place for everybody. Well, regarding the mural, when Jesse called and said, "Hey, something's wrong with the mural," we knew right away that the mural had to be restored. That mural, it's an icon to this community. It's got a good visual coming down navigation going east. So it's almost what I would say like a gateway kind of mural. And so, Jesse called and said, what can we do to put this mural back? And I knew Jesse that he was going to work really hard and was going to donate his time to make sure that this mural goes back. But we believe in the artists getting rewarded for their work. And so luckily the district had a little bit of funding to do some mural restoration projects in the community. And so happens that this funding was available. So I worked with Jesse to, give him some funds to be able to buy all the supplies. And so he was generous enough to kind of organize all of that. He went to buy all the supplies he needed. He did the cutouts, and so he worked on that. In the meantime, I knew that Jesse had to get rewarded for his work, so I came back to the East End team and say, hey, what can we do to provide some funding for Jesse for all the hard work he's putting into the project. So we were able to come up with a little bit more funding to be able to do that. And again, Francis, like you say, it's all about teamwork, what's important to the community, and how can we help. And this is all of that.
That's great. And Jesse, how did it make you feel that, quickly your ask was granted?
I like to thank Martin and the East End District for their help. I mean, I reached out to others, and the East End and Martin was the ones that came through, and that little funding for materials was a big help, and it just made my job a little easier, because I had to special order a lot of these colors. Some of these colors are gone; you can't even find them. So having those special orders and having the funding to buy that material was a big help. I like to, and thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Martin. You're our hero again.
Yeah.
And Jesse, how important is it for you? Because I know that some of the projects you have kids, students participate with you. How important it is to have students work with you on projects?
On this project, it was a little difficult because I didn't have an assistant, it never fails. Once you climb up the scaffolding, you forgot something. So you drop something, and you got to go back down and go get it. You don't have a helper. But students are always a big help. And when we first put this up in 2013, I had an art student. I hired him as my assistant, and which made the job go a little easier. Matter of fact, I had two. And so I always try to get the art students to help, and those who come and there's even some that want to come and volunteer to help, which is great. And I never turned down the help. But in this situation, it was pretty much a solo job because I'm outdoors. The space was, a 10-foot space width. If you look at the gap in that airplane, that's 10-foot distance. So with the wearing a face mask, even you had to be careful. So this time I had to just do this by myself. I mean, it was
We're
fun.
grateful.
It was fun, and I was glad to do it. And
Well,
I'm
we're
glad to
so
see it.
grateful. I'm glad to see it because I drive by there all the time, and I'm glad to see that it's back up the way it was before. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Jesse.
Yeah, you're
We're
welcome.
gonna talk to Martin right now about the work that he does at the district. Congratulations! I hear you're coming on your 20th year at the district.
Yes, I'm very honored, and there's a reason why I've been here 20 years now, and it's because I love the job. I love what we do. I love to see all the improvements that happen in the community. I think the East End has a very special place in my heart, and I want to continue to serve our businesses, our residents, and help out in whatever I can to make the East End a better place for everybody.
And you do that. So for those of you don't know, tell us a little bit about what you and your team do.
Well, I do what we call the bread and butter of the job of the district, which is beautification and cleanup, security and public safety. I would say that the visual improvements is what really kind of makes it happen for me because, we're into planting trees. For example, you see that picture right there. We planted over 2,000 trees in the district. And by God, planting trees in the community really does make a difference. It just makes it feel like, everything's more natural. You get breath of fresh air from the trees, and everything just looks so much better. So besides that, and helping clean up the graffiti in the community, to talk about the graffiti abatement program, this program got started early on back in 1999. And that's when I was hired to run this program. And because the board understood back then that that was a big public safety program, and they really wanted to focus a lot of resources on taking care of that problem. And you know what? Within 2 years, we were able to control it, manage it, and have since been asked to provide those similar services to other management districts, including the City of Houston, Houston Parks Board, and other nonprofit and political entities. That extra funding helps us also by bringing those into projects here in the community. The other thing that I love about the graffiti abatement program is that our goal is to make the graffiti look like it was never there. So there's a lot of processes to be able to do that. That includes pressure washing, as you can see what we're doing on the picture on the top right. Um, our guys are also really good about color matching. And color matching is probably one of the hardest things to learn. It's a skill that it just takes a lot of practice. And so our guys are really good at looking at a wall and deciding, okay, what two colors or three or four or five colors I need to mix in order to make the color match correctly. And so we pride ourselves in making that happen. And so, although graffiti in the East End is still around and you'll still see it, but we pride ourselves in saying that we stay on top of it. As soon as someone reports it, as soon as HPD calls, a business owner, or we see it, I mean, we cover it up within a week. So I'm really happy with that response time, and I'm glad.
Well, as you try to put that back, there you
So
go.
that's part of
And Martin, this is great. And we have on the next pitch, the next slide, we have some more photos of what you and your team do. In addition to graffiti abatement and beautification, you guys keep the Esplanade. I don't think people know that you and your team are the ones that keep it as beautiful and clean as it is, and also the hike and bike trails, how the trees are trimmed and the grass is cut. Can you tell us about your team doing that?
Yeah, friends
I think you're on.
that improved our community. Uh, so some of those projects include cleaning up some of our bridges and underpasses. We trim and prune a lot of trees in the community. I mean, you know, I would say we maintain pretty much every tree on the right of way within the East End. If you see anything out there that needs our attention, feel free to call our office at 713-928-9916, and we'll get out there and see how we can help out. A lot of trees are pruned for safety. A lot of trees are pruned for aesthetics, but we're out there pruning those trees. And regarding the Esplanade, definitely that's one of our iconic places and one of the places that we pride in making sure that it's well maintained, just because it draws a lot of people to the community. And people want a nice, safe place to go out and walk and hang out. Even during at night, it's well lit. So, you know, you can hang out there late at night with no problems, go to the restaurants close by. And so, you know, we would make sure that place is kept well maintained throughout the whole time.
And you and
Regarding
your
the
team are
trails,
essential workers, so you are working during COVID-19 out there in the heat. So I wanted to say thank you for doing all of that. Sometimes people take it for granted that we're inside in our house, but someone's going to have to do all that stuff. So your team is out there doing the work that we appreciate.
yeah, definitely, Francis. Well, you know, kudos to our crew. You know that they're out there working hard every day to keep the East End clean and beautiful. So you know, that goes to them. But you know, it's a matter of fact that they want to be out there working for the community and keeping things looking good.
That's good. And this page right here, I threw this in there. These are not pictures that you guys shared with us, and we'll bring Dan and Jesse back on. But you two have done so much for our community, and Jesse was honored as our East End Ray for one of our past East End Street Festivals. And you were one of the Comcast Hispanic Hero Award recipients. And as everyone can hear, well-deserved. 20 years at the same company, beautifying our community, having a team that's grown and gotten national, well, citywide success. We really appreciate what you and Jesse are doing. So thank you for that. I wanted to make sure everyone knew.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you,
Good.
Francis.
You're so welcome. And if anyone has any questions, please write them in the chat box. But we did have one question that I wanted to ask. And this is from Gloria Zenteno. She asked, the Center for Pursuit is looking into art for their new campus on Harrisburg. And why would we all recommend that they make sure that include art from the community at that location? So Jesse, maybe we'll start with you. How important is it to use local artists within the community that they live and serve in?
Well, it's always good to support your local artists. And you know, every time I have a chance, I patronize the East End. I live in the East End. I've lived in the East End for a long time. And you know, I like this place. It's nice. Now to have artists we have a number of talented artists in the East End. And you don't have to look any further than in your own backyard to find artists. And I think artists are important. I mean, if you look at today's situation, some of the strongest statements have come from artists. There's a big, strong statement at Sam Houston Park with the Heritage Society. The mural that they just put up was a very significant piece. And I think that was something that was, I think it's needed. I think it was timely. And I thought it was very important. So it's always good to support the East End artists.
I agree. And you, Dan, I know you answered that question, but anything you want to share?
No, to piggyback on what Jesse said, you know, and I'm an artist and photographer myself, and being able to find outlets, especially during the situation that we're all in right now, is key. And it's always disappointing, as you know, when a local artist like myself may get overlooked by somebody from outside to come in and do the work that you were completely capable of doing. So being able to highlight and stimulate the local arts community right here in the East End is obviously of our highest priority. And it's twofold, right? Because it also brings a new attraction and just a beautification to something that would otherwise just be a blank wall or a passageway from building A to building B. And I think as the Center for Pursuit is coming online with their beautiful new headquarters, the fact that they're thinking through as public art as part of that component is what we want all of the developers and business owners here in the East End to do, because creating that infrastructure and that network of public art for folks to enjoy, it's a stimulant to your emotions as well. You know, and it just a good piece of colorful art just makes you feel good. So for the community that utilizes the services at the Center for Pursuit, and the tourists of the East End, and the folks that'll be there on the East End Light Rail, being able to see that just brightens your day a little bit. And we're grateful that folks are thinking about public art as a key component as they develop new spaces. So as I mentioned to Gloria on the chat, you know, as businesses and folks find opportunities, reach out to us, because through the cultural district, we are always looking for opportunities to expand that network and beautify the East End through the arts. So shoot us a note. We may have artists that are looking and already have concepts, or then we may be able to play matchmaker and connect you with an artist that can create a custom one-off, you know, specific to your mission or to your you know, utilizing the colors of your organization or something like that, and create just a beautiful attraction for your new space. So
I think that's great. And we know we're all doing COVID right now, and most of us are indoors. And East End Houston, they still have a map of all the murals. And Jesse, I love the fact that you are riding your bike throughout the East End. Dan, is there a way for people to download that map currently right now?
there is, and Francis, it's funny you should ask, because we're in the middle of a project right now on completely revitalizing that map and turning it into kind of our 2.0 edition, both in a print variety as well as an interactive version that we hope to have live later this summer. So while it still is live there on eastendhouston.com, there's going to be a much more new and improved version that incorporates a bunch of the great new art that we have. I've been out in the district. It's been hot for the last couple of weeks, documenting and taking photos and doing 3D images and virtual reality of a bunch of the new work, and hope to have that live later this summer, so that folks can really have a great opportunity for a bike tour, or get in your car, or quite frankly, if you're uncomfortable right now, you know, something that you can explore from the comfort of your home. So please be on the lookout. But in the meantime, yes, eastendhouston.com, and then search for our mural map on there.
And you can do it on your phone too, so you can
Absolutely.
take your phone with you. I've got a question from Tina, and this is a great one. On Harrisburg, I think they call it the Mural Museum. Now that it's an Amazon parking lot, is there any information of what's going to be done with the building and the artwork? Does anyone know?
I may be able to address that a little bit. So it's you know, it's a privately owned facility by Frank Liu owns that building, and he saw it as an opportunity. You know, its forever goal was not to be the Harrisburg Art Museum. It's, you know, they were hoping to develop it at some point. He's found a way through a partnership with Amazon to stimulate his economy just a little bit, and it's a fascinating example of how somebody can take a transitioning piece of infrastructure that was otherwise sitting empty and vacant and give it a temporarily new home and new use, and dress it up. And we've started to see that in other communities and other cities, and right here in the East End, where as somebody is looking and trying to repurpose or you know, make their space attractive, bringing art to it is a great placeholder, and they curated it as the Harrisburg Art Museum. There was a number of collaborators on that brought some really eye-catching murals to the front and back of that warehouse facility, inside as well. So I don't know the full future of the building and what that looks like. There's been talks for, you know, complete redevelopment of it at some point. But for the time being, you know, Amazon is using it for their truck and delivery services, and the murals are still there. So, you know, as you're riding the light rail or walking down Harrisburg or riding your bike, be sure to check it out there. And like I said, you know, as folks are looking to, you know, for some adaptive reuse opportunities in the East End, art is a great way to draw attention and sell your space.
I agree. I
and make it
agree.
attractive.
I've got another question for you, Dan. What are the boundaries of the cultural district, and are they the same as the East End boundaries?
Great question. No, they're not. There is the Texas Commission for the Arts, which is the governing body of cultural districts in the East End, has some specific parameters that we had to meet to qualify, particularly density of what they qualify as cultural venues. So it's really, and there's a map on it. If you go to eastendhouston.com/cultural district, you will see the map. It's really a two quadrants, kind of A and B, and then Navigation Boulevard does an offshoot from it as well. We continue to hope to expand upon it. There's nothing that's keeping us from expanding upon it. We just need more public art and more culture that qualifies, cultural activities that qualify. But it's, you know, most of the second ward is included, and then as you get up further east as well, there's great opportunities and great examples of public art that are outside of it. There's just not a whole lot of density surrounding them, so we have to meet that threshold to be able to build those parameters.
No worries, no worries. And Jesse, I know that you're a bike rider and you're an artist, of course. Other than your pieces, do you have a favorite mural here in the East End that's not yours?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Gonzo did a tremendous job bringing that mural back. And I think they used some state-of-the-art paint. And I think it's going to be there for a while. I hope to see that.
Me too.
I love the bingo cards on the bathroom container on the Esplanade. That's a really outstanding piece.
Good.
The piece that Jesse's talking about is is probably one of the most famous murals in the entire city, Rebirth of Our Nationality, that Leo Tanguma did back in the early 70s. There on the building that was the former Crown
Continental Can Company.
Yeah, Crown Can, I think, or Continental Can Company, that is now Precinct 6 Constable's office there is there now. But just last year and over the previous year, he partnered with you know, one of the famous local Houston muralists, Gonzo 247, to completely rehabilitate that mural and bring the color back to it as it had faded. You know, being 45 years old at this point, it looks fantastic.
I know, I love it. I think it's beautiful.
He did a
Mark,
tremendous job on that. And I don't know if you knew this, but in '73, I was a freshman at TSU, and another art student and I went over there to go look, and Leo started talking to us and asked us if we wanted to help. So I said, sure, we'll help. We don't know what to do, but you know. So one of the things that Leo had me do, because I helped him paint on that, besides countless others, there's a number of them, volunteers there. There was the veteran, the mom holding a photograph of her son. Leo drew my face in there, and I painted it. So
wow.
my self-portrait was on that mural for a long time, and that's one of the things I remember about that. That started the mural movement in the East End. It's a block long. It made the papers.
Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful piece, and I encourage everyone to ride their bikes by there. But Martin, wanted to just ask you the final question. You've got an amazing team. Do you often hire, or people want to contribute or volunteer? How do they reach you to do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely, Francis. I wanted to talk about that because a lot of the projects that we do, we collaborate with a lot of entities. For example, the tree planting, you know, we get trees donated by Trees for Houston, and also corporate companies come in and volunteer their hours to be able to do some of these tree planting projects. We also use inmates that come out and help us do beautification and cleanup projects. For example, they help us pick up like illegal dumping sites and pruning trees. And we also get regular volunteers that just want to help improve the community. So they come to our office and sign up to volunteer. You guys are welcome to do that. We would really appreciate it. Although right now, because of the global pandemic, we're not accepting any volunteers, but hopefully that'll normalize soon, Francis.
Good.
Hopefully.
Good. Well, thank you all so much. I want to encourage everyone to try to volunteer with the East End District for beautification projects. Email all three of these gentlemen about ways that you can get involved, and hopefully you've left a little bit inspired to go out and ride your bike and tour some of the murals and eat some of the restaurants that we have here. We just wanted to remind everyone that we have our East End Strong Facebook group page where people can go and find restaurants that are open here, how we can support them, other businesses too. And this recording will be on our East End website, East End Chamber website, for you to share with other folks. Thank you guys so very much. We look forward to working with you, continue to collaborate, and we'll all meet back again, maybe at the East End Street Fest.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great
See you,
weekend.
Martin.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.